Hello, welcome to Key Philosophies. Today we'll be reading The Rites of Mithras, as understood by Manly P. Hall from the Secret Teachings of All Ages. When the Persian mysteries immigrated into southern Europe, they were quickly assimilated by the Latin mind. The cult grew rapidly, especially among the Roman soldiery. And during the Roman wars of conquest, the teachings were carried by the legionnaires of nearly all parts of Europe. So powerful did the cult of Mithras become that at least one Roman emperor was initiated into the order, which met in caverns under the city of Rome. Concerning the spread of this mystery school through different parts of Europe, C.W. King and his Gnostics and Their Remains says Mithraic bas reliefs cut on the surface of rocks or on stone tablets still abound in the countries formerly the western provinces of the Roman Empire. Many exist in Germany, still more in France, and in this land, Britain, they have often become discovered on the lines of Pick's Wall and the noted one Bath. Alexander Wilder, in his Philosophy and Ethics of Zoroaster, states that Mithras is the Zend title for the sun, and he is supposed to dwell within that shining orb. Mithras has a male and female aspect, though not himself androgynous. As Mithras, he is the lord of the sun, powerful and radiant, and most magnificent of the Yazatas, Izads or genii of the sun. As Mithra, this deity represents the feminine principle. The mundane universe is recognized as her symbol. She represents nature, as receptive and terrestrial, and as fruitful only when bathed in the glory of the solar orb. The Mithraic cult is a simplification of the more elaborate teachings of Zarathustra. Zoroaster, the Persian fire magician. According to the Persians, there coexists in eternity two principles. The first of these, Ahura Mazda, or Ormuzd, was the spirit of good. From Ormuzd came forth a number of hierarchies of good and beautiful spirits, angels and archangels. The second of these eternally existing principles was called Ahriman. He was also a pure and beautiful spirit, but he later rebelled against Ormuzd, being jealous of his power. This did not occur, however, until after Ormuzd had created light, for previously Ahriman had not been conscious of the existence of Ormuzd. Because of his jealousy and rebellion, Ahriman became the spirit of evil. From himself, he individualized a host of destructive creatures to injure Ormuzd. When Ormuzd created the earth, Ahriman entered into its grosser elements. When Ormuzd did a good deed, Ahriman placed the principle of evil within it. At last, when Ormuzd created the human race, Ahriman became incarnate in the lower nature of man, so that each personality of the spirit of good and the spirit of evil struggle for control. For 3,000 years, Ormuzd ruled the celestial worlds with light and goodness. Then he created man. For another 3,000 years, he ruled man with wisdom and integrity. Then the power of Ahriman began, and the struggle for the soul of man continues through the next period of 3,000 years. During the fourth period of 3,000 years, the power of Ahriman will be destroyed. Good will return to the world again. Evil and death will be vanquished, and at last the spirit of evil, will bow humbly before the throne of Ormuzd. While Ormuzd and Ahriman are struggling for control of the human soul and for supremacy in nature, Mithras, god of intelligence, stands as mediator between the two. Many authors have noted the similarity between Mercury and Mithras, as the chemical mercury acts as a solvent according to alchemists. So Mithras seeks to harmonize the two celestial opposites. And Rudolf Steiner had an interesting view of Ahriman and Satan as essentially being the same elements, as one being like a vitalic element, or vitality, and that'd be the satanic element, and then there's the Ahrimanic element being a crystallizing type of force. So Mithras seeks to harmonize the two celestial opposites, much like the Christ force in Rudolf Steiner's theology. There are many points of resemblance between Christianity and the cult of Mithras. One of the reasons for this probability is that the Persian mystics invaded Italy during the 1st century after Christ, and the early history of both cults was closely interwoven. The Encyclopedia Britannica makes the following statement concerning Mithraic and Christian mysteries. The fraternal and democratic spirit of the first communities and their humble origin, the identification of the object of adoration with light and the sun, the legends of the shepherds with their gifts and adoration, the flood and the ark, the representation in art of the fiery chariot, the drawing of water from the rock, the use of the bell and candle, holy water and the communion, the sanctification of Sunday and the 25th of December, the instance on moral conduct, the emphasis placed on abstinence and self-control, the doctrine of heaven and hell, of primitive revelation, of the mediation of the Logos emanating from the divine, the atoning sacrifice, the constant warfare between good and evil, and the final triumph of the former, the immortality of the soul, the last judgment, the resurrection of the flesh, and the fiery destruction of the universe. These are some of the resemblances which, whether real or apparent, enable Mithraism to prolong its resistance to Christianity. The rites of Mithras were performed in caves. Porphyry, in his Cave of the Nymphs, states that Zoroaster, was the first to consecrate the cave to the worship of God, because a cave was symbolic of the earth or the lower world of darkness. J.P. Lundy, in his Monumental Christianity, describes the Cave of Mithras as follows: but this cave was adorned with the signs of the zodiac, Cancer and Capricorn. The summer and winter solstices were chiefly conspicuous as the gates of the soul descending into this life, or passing out of it in their ascent to the gods. Cancer being the gate of descent, and Capricorn of ascent. These are the two avenues of immortals passing up and down from earth to heaven, from heaven to earth. The so-called chair of St. Peter in Rome was believed to have been used in one of the pagan mysteries, possibly that of Mithras, in whose subterranean grottos the votaries of the Christian mysteries met in the early days of their faith. In Anacalypsis, Godfrey Higgins writes that in 1962, while cleaning his sacred chair of Bar Jonas, the 12 labors of Hercules were discovered upon it, and that later the French discovered upon the same chair the Mohammedan Confession of Faith, written in Arabic. Initiation into the rites of Mithras, like initiation into many other ancient schools of philosophy, apparently consisted of 3 important degrees. Preparation for these degrees consisted of self-purification and building up of the intellectual powers, and the control of the animal nature. In the first degree, the candidate was given a crown upon the point of a sword and instructed in the mysteries of Mithras' hidden power. Probably he was taught that the golden crown represented his own spiritual nature, which must be objectified and unfold before he could truly glorify Mithras. For Mithras was his own soul, standing as a mediator between Ormuzd, his spirit, and Ahriman, his animal nature. So, a little different from Steiner's. In the second degree, he was given the armor of intelligence and purity, and sent into darkness and subterranean pits to fight the beasts of lust, passion, and degeneracy. In the third degree, he was given a cape, upon which were drawn or woven the signs of the zodiac and other astronomical symbols. After his initiations were over, he was hailed as one who has risen from the dead, was instructed in the secret teachings of the Persian mystics, and became a full-fledged member of the order. Candidates who successfully passed the Mithraic initiations were called lions, and were marked upon their forehead with the Egyptian cross. Mithras himself is often pictured with the head of a lion and two pairs of wings. Throughout the entire ritual were repeated references to the birth of Mithras as the sun god, his sacrifice for man, his death that man might have eternal life, and lastly, his resurrection and saving all humanity by his intercession before the throne of Ormuz. While the cult of Mithras did not reach the philosophic heights attained by Zarathustra, its effects on the civilization of the Western world, was far-reaching. For at one time, nearly all Europe was converted to its doctrines. Rome, in her intercourse with other nations, inoculated them with her religious principles, and many later institutions have exhibited Mithraic culture. The reference to the lion and the grip of the lion's paw in the Master Mason's degree have a strong Mithraic tinge and may easily have originated from this cult. The ladder of the seven rungs appears in the Mithraic initiation. Faber is of the opinion that this ladder was originally a pyramid of 7 steps. It is possible that the Masonic ladder, with its rungs, had its origin in this Mithraic symbol. Women were never permitted to enter the Mithraic order, but children of the male sex were initiated long before they reached maturity. The refusal to permit women to join the Masonic order may be based on the esoteric reason given in the secret instructions of the Mithraics. The cult is another excellent example of those secret societies whose legends are largely symbolic representations of the sun and his journey through the houses of the heavens. Mithras, rising from stone, is merely the sun rising over the horizon, or as the ancients supposed, out of the horizon, at the vernal equinox. John O'Neill disputes the theory that Mithras was intended as a solar deity. In The Night of the Gods, he writes, Avenston Mithra, the Yazata of light, has 10,000 eyes high, with full knowledge, Parathuvayadhyana, strong, sleepless and ever awake, Jag Harvangham. The supreme god Ahura Mazda also has one eye, or else it is said that with his eyes, the sun, moon, and stars, he sees everything. This theory that Mithras was originally the title of the supreme heavens god, putting the sun out of court, is the only one that answers all requirements. It will be evident that here we have the origins in abundance for the Freemason's eye and its non quam dormio. That's nun quam dormio. Nunquamdormio. The reader must not confuse the Persian Mithra with the Vedic Mitra, according to Alexander Wilder. The Mithraic rites supersedes the mysteries of Bacchus and become the foundation of the Gnostic system, which for many centuries prevailed in Asia, Egypt, and even in the remote West. And I'm sure this information will become more useful as we study other things elsewhere. Well, thanks for joining me. Leave a like if you can, and have a good evening.